the coaches, Dan Campbell specifically, blew it. Khalif Raymond and Josh Reynolds
It's friendly fire.
run into each other?
Friendly fire.
How do you
Detroit
run
Lions.
into each other?
Same old Lions as Dan Campbell making the same bonehead decision.
He don't make anything north of 50.
He's supposed to be the long leg. That's why he made the team. He should make that kick. He's
He
an
should.
NFL kicker.
All right, let me just set this up first and foremost because I want to have a conversation about morale for a minute here. We always talk about the Don Canham, don't let one game beat you twice.
Yeah.
Don't let one bad day of news make two bad days of news.
Like you keep it going.
Yeah. How big of a blow is a game like this to the morale of the players, especially on top? Fletch, help me out here with the news today. DeAndre Swift is most likely going to miss some time. DeAndre Swift suffered a shoulder sprain in Sunday's game. This from Tom Pelissero. It is expected that he will not require surgery, but he is expected to miss some time.
Right.
Again, regardless of the guy's not out there trying to get hurt, but he's never available.
Never.
Also, Tracy Walker. News today, Tracy Walker on his Twitter page. I appreciate the support from my fans and friends. It is true that I tore my Achilles and I'm done for the season, but I'll bounce back and be better than ever the following years to come. So
how many Achilles get blown out for the Lions?
Walker out, DeAndre Swift most likely out, and then couple that with the loss at Minnesota that you just handed them. Said, no, I don't want this W. I want you to have it.
You take it.
You take it. What does that do for morale? How doesn't that beat you twice?
I don't know how it doesn't. It's one of those things where talking about the Detroit Lions going into the season, everybody's excited talking about this guy and that guy and what they're going to do and Dan Campbell and they're better and the identity and the formation and they're on the same page and I believe they can do this. You still got to show people that you can do those things. You got to show me. I talked about the defensive players. One thing I wanted, Ryan, Ermanni, on this team, I wanted some of those free agent defensive players. I get it. You talk about, the money, and we don't want to have so much money held up in this player when we're trying to build around young guys and through the draft. Obviously, they're waiting for the draft to get these defensive players. There were guys out there that can make plays. Like, you mean to tell me you looked at the you looked at the Mike linebacker position, and you told yourself that Anzalone was the best you could do with free agency? You mean to tell me that you didn't look at a guy like Miles Jack, who only has 38 tackles through 3 games so far with the Pittsburgh Steelers? You didn't look at something like that? You look at safety play. Tracy Walker's pretty good through a couple games. You didn't look at Tyrann Mathieu, a little older. But you see, he didn't cost that much money to the New Orleans Saints. He didn't cost a boatload of money. I think he was $9 million or so. So you got to put people around young players to teach them how to win, to teach them how to be the professional, to teach them how to do little things that you as a coach, you can't necessarily connect to them on or get their ear or have them, or you show them how to do it on the field. You got to have older guys, veteran guys that know how to win, guys that have been in winning situations, winning programs. You got to have that on your football team. And right now, Ryan and Mike, they do not have that on their football team.
I get that end of it, but it's not like they gave up 44 points to the Minnesota Vikings. That defense, for the most part, played really well. And again, I think Aaron Glenn deserves a little bit of criticism after for the miscommunication. I always think that communication problems are on coaches and not so much on players. I always have said that. I've been consistent on that. How there was a miscommunication with a minute to go in that game where that player was able to forget the guy's name that caught the touchdown. Was able to just go so KJ Osborne. It was so far free. Nobody covering him. Between Oruwariye and Hughes, when you got a backup in there, that's a communication problem. I put that on the coach as well. They essentially gave up 21 points to a very potent Minnesota Vikings offense. You got to win that game. And again, the coaches, Dan Campbell specifically, blew it. And I'll say this too about the Campbell. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, I was going to say, and I understand, you're right. There is there was a miscommunication there by the coaches, miscommunication there by the players. But at the same time, when you have veteran players, right, when you got guys that have been there before, those plays don't happen in those moments of the game. They don't happen when you're in the fourth quarter and you're trying to keep them out of the end zone so that you can keep the lead, so that you can win this game and put another W in the winning column. Those moments don't happen when you have players in there. Like, I understand you want to build through the draft, you want the young guys, but plays like that don't happen when you have a Tyrann Mathieu, when you have a Quandre Diggs, when you have a Bobby Wagner, when you have a Miles Jack who's even playing some pretty good ball for the Steelers. These are guys that I wanted them to look at, and there are other players as well that you could have afforded, but you chose not to address the defense. Now, they have been playing decent ball. They gave up 38 points against Philly. I understand Philly's this all unbeatable team. They gave up 38 to Philly. They gave up 27 points in the second half to the Washington Commanders, who we know are not a good football team. And then this week, you let the Minnesota Vikings score 14 in that fourth quarter. They got to do something about that. The way they finish games from a defensive standpoint, you got to do something.
Look, this team, we all know, we had a loss penciled in. Like you always say, Vikings at home, that's a loss. So let's not get too ahead of ourselves. Now, here's the downside. The other side, if that was the upside. DeAndre Swift, if he stays in the game, it's a different team. Amon-Ra St. Brown playing on one leg. Who else got hurt? Number 8.
97 wasn't himself.
I know. I'm talking
Josh
receivers.
Reynolds.
Josh Reynolds was hurt.
That's another perfect example of a same old Lions play where Khalif Raymond and Josh Reynolds
It's friendly fire.
run into each other.
Friendly fire.
How do you
Detroit
run
Lions.
into each other? That's an easy pitch and catch in a first down. And that might have won the game for him, by the way.
And he played for the Detroit Lions. Look, I get it, man. You're absolutely right, because Aiden Hutchinson not being his
They don't
full-
have the depth, man.
I understand 100%, and that's why throughout this season so far, I've kept this in mind. Look, I understand we're all excited about the Detroit Lions. Having them win their second game of the season and not game 13 in December felt really good. But there's still things that you got to show proof. Thing one, you don't win on the road. You got to show me that you can win on the road. They go to the Vikings. I understand they were up the whole game. What was the final result? They lost. Even with those guys that were injured and players were hurt and this player missed and that, they still were in position to win that game. They still were in position, and they lost. They're a team that gives up points in the fourth quarter. Has that changed? So with that being said, yes, they have some positives. I mean, they've scored the second most touchdowns in the NFL, only behind the Baltimore Ravens. There are positives that you could take for this game. But if we're going to be as positive as we were last week about the Washington Commanders, and if we're going to be as positive as we were in the first week saying, hey, I mean, that was Philly. When they drop a deuce, we have to address it accordingly as well. Because if we don't hold them accountable, then what are we really doing?
Well, that's what I'm trying to do with the coach.
Yeah.
Because I do think those players, they're not the most talented roster in the NFL. They're just not. And I don't know if you stack their talent up against other teams in the NFL.
Nah.
I'm not sure where it comes. That's why your coach can't lose you games.
Yeah.
That's where your coach cannot drop one for you.
Well, do you like him going on fourth down a lot? Do you like that?
Every situation is different. Every situation is different. And I just think in that situation where you have a 54-yard field goal, the bad far outweighs the good. Again, even if he makes it, you're still
only up 6.
A touchdown beats you. Even if he makes it, a touchdown beats you. In this instance, a make is his career long. He can't. It's not his fault. He doesn't make anything north of 50.
Riley Patterson hasn't missed anything for the Jags, by the way.
It's not. I don't blame Seibert or Seibert, or however you say his name.
Neither is Christian Kirk.
To be honest with you, I don't blame Seibert. I blame the coach.
You took him out of his wheelhouse. That's not his wheelhouse.
He don't make anything north of 50.
He's supposed to be the long leg. That's why he made the team.
Well, he's only made a 53-yard field goal. That's his longest in his career. He missed from 54.
But he pushed it wide.
Again,
it's not like he's short.
And it's not automatic. So what I'm saying to you is
he's indoors.
For a kicker to be placed in that spot, the chance of a block in return for a touchdown,
Listen.
the chance for a miss anything is worse than what happened.
He
there.
should make that kick. He's
He
an
shouldn't.
NFL kicker. It's only 20 yards more than a freaking extra point.
It's a 50-50 proposition, man.
This is not 1999. Kickers have been missing at an exponential rate ever since they moved the 2-point kick. I mean the extra point back. The drop in kicks, missed field goals has been substantial in the last 8 years. You can't keep a kicker in this league. You only have 3 kickers in this league that I know to be automatic. You got Bucker,
Justin Tucker.
you got Tucker, Bucker, and freaking Boswell for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Everybody else, every year, they got a different kicker or somebody else kicking. 54 is a lot. We had the same conversation with the Denver Broncos and the Seattle Seahawks. That man had never made a field goal that far in his life. In fact, he was 1 of 8 for field goals over 50 yards, and Hackett decided to make that decision to go for a field goal. Knowing those stats, same thing here with Dan Campbell. Now, you want to talk about same old Lions, I got one for you. Same old Lions is Dan Campbell making the same bonehead decision. This decision on 4th down to not go for it or not punt it, same decision similar to what happened last year against Baltimore, what happened last year against Minnesota Vikings in terms of defenses falling at the end of games.
So when are you going to learn from it?
Yeah.
I mean, even the friggin' timeout, Maz, that you said.
That's the worst thing.
You talk about learning from mistakes. The same exact mistake, the same exact thing happened to you last year in the same week, by the way, week 3 against Baltimore.
It's today, by the way, the anniversary.
And you didn't learn anything from that. I'm not saying...
Is Dan Campbell too transparent and honest at the podium sometimes? Because it seems like I'm hearing this a lot out of Dan Campbell in just his, 17 plus 3 is 20 game. I'm hearing this a lot. That's my fault. That's my bad. I should have done this. I shouldn't have done that. Is he too transparent?
Look. Were you trying to go somewhere with me, Maz, when you said, "Do I like him going on 4th down?"
Yeah, I am trying.
It's either
because
go
you
for
either
it or punt.
You got to believe in him.
I do.
He's going to make a mistake, but you got to believe in him.
I understand, Maz, but in the NFL, the margins are too thin.
Okay, listen to me. Let me just put it in black and white for you. You had 3 options: field goal, punt, or go for it. And any of 3 could have missed, and you still would be pissed.
The chances, though, of the option that he picked of beating you were far outweighed anything.
No.
That he could have.
No,
yes.
it's not far.
Far outweighed anything he could have chosen.
The reason why I agree with Ryan Ermanni on this particular point, if he goes for it and doesn't get it, we all could came up here and rip him a new one for going for it on 4th and 4. When 4th and 4, we would have ripped him to shreds. The field goal miss, we're ripping him to shreds. The punt is the most liable option. Going back to the field goal, Cyber wasn't even necessarily going to make the team during training camp. It was which one of these kickers are better. He wasn't even the lock to be the field goal kicker, but you trust him on the road in Minnesota to make a 54-yarder. That's how I'm looking at it.
That he's trusting his defense to hold them out of the end zone.
There was
and they probably would have.